The clock on Ethan Cole's desk read 2:17 a.m. when his smartphone vibrated against the glass surface. The 47th floor of Cole Tech Industries stretched empty around him. Nothing but the blue glow of international stock tickers illuminating his face. He'd been alone for hours. The way he preferred it, silence meant control, solitude meant safety, unknown number. His finger hovered over the decline button, probably a wrong number, some drunk dialing from a bar. At this hour it was always, "Hello, please, someone, I can't find my father." The voice stopped him cold, small, trembling, breaking with fear. Ethan frowned, his jaw tightening. "You've called the wrong number. And kid, don't hang up." The desperation in those words cut through the distance between them. "Please, I'm alone. They said my dad, that he—" Silence, just ragged breathing and muffled sobs. Something locked inside Ethan's chest. He stared out the window at the indifferent city sprawling below, millions of lights marking millions of lives. How many people were sleeping while a child cried for help? A memory flickered. Himself at 12, small hands gripping a hospital bed rail, nurses whispering about the accident that killed his parents. The cold, the emptiness, the terrible understanding that no one was coming. "Where are you?" His voice came out rougher than intended. "Hospital, Manhattan General, emergency room. They said I need to wait, but nobody came." Ethan was already grabbing his coat. The drive took 40 minutes through empty streets slick with recent rain. His Aston Martin cut through the darkness, and with each mile, that old memory pressed closer, Uncle Harold and Aunt Margaret, who'd taken him in like a burden they'd been forced to carry, the boarding schools, the trust fund they'd managed until he was 18, the relief in their eyes when he'd finally left for MIT. He'd built an empire from nothing, transformed loneliness into fuel, 26 years of walls. Carefully constructed, 26 years of never letting anyone close enough to— The hospital's automatic doors parted with a soft hiss. Disinfectant smell hit him first, sharp and chemical. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead. The buzz of machines created a constant white noise that crawled under his skin. "I'm looking for a child," he told the nurse at reception. "Came in alone." Monica Reyes looked up from her computer. Dark circles heavy beneath her eyes. 3 kids at home, Ethan would learn later, 12-hour shifts, a husband who worked construction. She'd seen too much to be surprised by anything anymore. "Lily Bennett," Monica said softly, and something in her tone made Ethan's stomach drop. 7 years old, parents were in a car accident 4 hours ago. Father died here in the ER. Mother was killed on impact. The pediatric waiting area was a sad attempt at cheerfulness. Plastic chairs in primary colors, faded cartoon characters on the walls, and there, curled impossibly small in a blue chair, was a little girl clutching a threadbare stuffed rabbit. Ethan's feet moved before his brain caught up, brown hair tangled and matted, a floral dress torn at the hem. Eyes swollen red from crying. When she looked up at him, something in that gaze, raw hope mixed with terror, shattered every defense he'd spent decades building. "You came," she whispered, as if she couldn't quite believe it was real. Ethan crouched down until they were eye-level, up close. He could see the dried tear tracks on her cheeks, the way her knuckles had gone white from gripping the rabbit. "I came. Will you stay?" Her voice was so small it nearly disappeared into the humming of the fluorescent lights. He should say no, should call child services, should walk away from this complication. This disruption to his carefully ordered life should— "I'll stay," the words came out before he could stop them. And in that moment, Ethan Cole sealed his fate to a child who carried secrets capable of destroying empires. Lily launched herself into his arms, her small body shaking with sobs. Ethan froze. Physical contact had always been something to avoid, to minimize, but slowly, awkwardly, he wrapped his arms around her. She smelled like hospital soap and something sweet, maybe the remnants of shampoo from before the accident, before everything changed. "They're really gone?" she asked against his shoulder. "Mama and Papa?" Ethan's throat tightened. "I'm sorry." she cried harder, and he just held her, this stranger child, while nurses passed by with sympathetic glances. Monica brought a blanket, draped it over Lily's shoulders. Somewhere a machine beeped. A doctor was paged over the intercom. The world kept spinning with casual cruelty. But in a dark office across the city, someone else was watching. The security camera footage was grainy, but sufficient. Vanessa Cross leaned back in her leather chair, grey eyes reflecting the monitor's glow. The scar on her temple caught the light, a reminder of Mogadishu, 2003, when things had gone sideways. She'd learned then that sentiment was weakness. Attachments were liabilities. "Identify him," she said into her phone, voice clipped and military precise. "And monitor. I want to know everywhere he goes, everyone he talks to." "Understood, General." She ended the call and watched the screen. The billionaire cradling Michael Bennett's daughter. Interesting, very interesting. Michael had been thorough. She'd give him that, even in death. He was still playing moves on the board. Her lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Across town, Logan Pierce's phone buzzed with an automated alert. He sat up in bed, instantly awake. Military training never really left you. His tablet showed security feeds from various locations around the city, flagged by his custom algorithm there. Manhattan General Hospital, unusual movement patterns, signal interference that lasted exactly 7 seconds before resolving. Someone was watching, someone sophisticated enough to nearly cover their tracks. He dialed Ethan's number. "Where are you, sir?" "Heading home." Ethan's voice was tight, strained. "With company." "Company?" In the rearview mirror, Ethan could see Lily in the back seat, finally asleep, still clutching that rabbit like a lifeline. Her face looked peaceful now, younger somehow, 7 years old, and already acquainted with loss. "It's complicated," he said. "I'll explain tomorrow." He disconnected and looked back at the sleeping child. The city lights streaked past the window, each one a life, a story, a possibility. His own reflection stared back at him from the glass. 38 years old, alone at the top of his empire, surrounded by success and empty of purpose until tonight, until a wrong number that wasn't wrong at all. Lily stirred, mumbling something in her sleep. Her hand twitched. Reaching for something that wasn't there, Ethan found himself reaching back, his fingers brushing her small hand. She grabbed on instinctively, even unconscious, and held tight. The car merged onto the highway. Leaving the hospital behind, ahead, the Manhattan skyline rose like a promise or a threat. Ethan couldn't tell which anymore. What he did know, with sudden crystalline certainty, was that his life had just divided into before and after. Before the call, after the promise, Monica Reyes watched them leave from the hospital entrance, coffee going cold in her hands. She'd been a nurse for 15 years, seen countless tragedies, watched families torn apart and, occasionally, miraculously stitched back together. Something about this felt different. She hoped the billionaire knew what he was getting into. But in her experience, nobody ever really did. The hospital doors closed behind her with a pneumatic sigh. And somewhere in the pediatric ward, a baby started crying. Monica headed back inside. There were always more emergencies, more broken people waiting for someone to care. At least tonight, one little girl wouldn't have to wait alone. 3 weeks later, Ethan's Tribeca penthouse looked like a toy store had exploded. Jessica Lynn, the interior designer he'd hired in a panic, directed furniture placement with military efficiency. Her measuring tape snapped as she checked dimensions for the 4th time. "The bed goes against that wall," Jessica said, pointing. "Window access for natural light but not directly overhead. Children need to see the door from bed. Security thing." Ethan stood in what used to be his pristine home office, now transformed into something that belonged in a completely different universe. Pink canopy bed, bookshelves stocked with illustrated stories, a plush rug that his feet sank into. It felt wrong. It feels perfect. Evelyn Carter said from the doorway. He turned to find the woman who'd be saving his life for the foreseeable future. Evelyn was 52, with grey hair pulled into a neat bun and a warm smile that reminded him of teachers he'd liked in elementary school. Before everything went wrong, her Tennessee accent softened her words. "You don't have experience with children, Mr. Cole. That much was clear from your interview questions." "Was it that obvious? You asked if 7-year-olds needed supervision while sleeping?" Evelyn's eyes crinkled with amusement. "But that's okay. Kids don't need perfect, they need present." Logan appeared in the hallway, his expression unreadable. "Sir, we need to discuss security protocols, background checks on all household staff, controlled access points, encrypted communications." "Logan," Ethan held up a hand, "not now. With respect, sir, you've made yourself vulnerable. A child is a child." Ethan cut him off, voice hardening. "Not a security threat, she stays." Logan's jaw clenched, but he nodded once and left. Ethan heard the elevator ding moments later. His head of security was probably going to run every possible threat assessment and have a 12-page report by morning. Evelyn watched the interaction with knowing eyes. He's not wrong to worry, but he'll come around. Everyone does once they meet her. As if summoned, Lily appeared at the top of the stairs. She'd been exploring the penthouse for the past hour. Quiet as a ghost, now she stood clutching Mr. Carrot, her stuffed rabbit, and stared at the transformed room. "Is this for me?" Evelyn knelt down, getting eye level. "Every bit of it, sweetheart. Your very own room." Lily approached slowly, reaching out to touch the bedpost like it might disappear. "All mine. All yours." That night, Ethan learned what terror really sounded like at 3:34 a.m. Screams ripped through the penthouse. He bolted upright, heart hammering, and ran. Lily's door was already open. He must have forgotten to close it. She was sitting up in bed, eyes wide but unseeing, hands clawing at invisible glass. "No, no, no, Mama, Mama." Ethan froze in the doorway. What was he supposed to do? He'd built billion-dollar companies, negotiated with hostile boards, survived a market crash that destroyed competitors. But a terrified 7-year-old was completely outside his expertise. He forced his legs to move, sat on the edge of her bed. "Lily, it's okay, you're safe." She turned to him without really seeing him, still trapped in the nightmare. "The car, all the red, Mama won't wake up." It was a dream. The words sounded stupid even as he said them. Not a dream, a memory. "Just a dream." Lily threw herself at him, sobbing into his chest. Her small body shook violently. Ethan sat rigid for a moment, then slowly, carefully, wrapped his arms around her. He'd never been good at this. Comfort, connection, the soft things people needed. Uncle Harold had believed in tough love, which mostly meant no love at all. But Lily needed someone, and he'd promised to stay. "I've got you," he murmured, the words feeling foreign in his mouth. "I've got you." Evelyn appeared in the doorway, having heard from her room down the hall. She watched silently, ready to intervene, but recognizing that this moment needed to belong to them. When Lily finally cried herself back to sleep against Ethan's shoulder, Evelyn retreated without a word. Let the bond form naturally. That's what children needed. Morning brought Dr. Sarah Mills, a child psychologist that Ethan's assistant had found, the best in New York. Naturally, Sarah had grey-streaked hair, despite being only 41, wire-rimmed glasses, and a gentle manner that immediately put people at ease. They set up in the library. Sarah used dolls and drawing materials, standard tools for helping traumatized children process. Lily sat at the table, silent, and drew and drew and drew. Ethan watched from the doorway as image after image emerged. A car, upside down. Stick figures lying still, red crayon everywhere. Too much red. Sarah's expression remained professionally neutral, but her notes grew longer with each new drawing. Afterward, in Ethan's office, Sarah was blunt. Severe acute trauma. She witnessed her parents' deaths, the psychological impact. "We're looking at months of therapy, possibly years. She'll need consistency, safety, patience." "How long?" Ethan asked. "As long as it takes." Sarah studied him over her glasses. "Are you prepared for that? Trauma doesn't heal on a schedule. It requires commitment. I'm committed. Good. Sarah closed her notebook. Because she's already attached to you, that makes you her primary source of stability. If you leave, I won't. Miles away in Queens, Dave Chen's office looked exactly like what it was. A struggling private investigator's workspace. Coffee-stained papers, outdated filing cabinets, a desk held up by a phone book under one leg. The radiator clanked and hissed in the corner. His phone rang. Unknown number. Chen Investigations. I have a job for you. $50,000. Dave straightened in his chair. 50 grand. What's the job? Michael Bennett, I need everything. Financial records, work history, associates, enemies, everything. Who's hiring? Does it matter? It probably should. But Dave's rent was 3 months overdue. No, send me what you have. The line went dead. 30 seconds later, an encrypted email arrived with a down payment and a starting file. Dave opened it. Scanning the basics, Michael Bennett, software engineer, died 3 weeks ago in a car accident with his wife, one surviving child. But the interesting part came 3 pages in. Hospital bills for cancer treatment. Michael's wife. 2 years ago, 6 figures in debt. Then suddenly, 3 weeks before the accident, all paid off. One transaction, untraceable offshore account. Someone had bought something from Michael Bennett, or bought his silence. Dave cracked his knuckles and pulled up his contact list. Time to dig. Back in Tribeca, Sunday morning arrived with rare sunshine. Evelyn suggested pancakes. Ethan stared at his kitchen like it was a foreign country, which it basically was. He'd lived on takeout and protein shakes for years. Okay, he said, how hard can it be? Very hard, as it turned out. He cracked eggs and got shell everywhere. The batter had lumps. The first pancake burned black while he was distracted by the coffee maker. Lily sat at the counter, legs swinging, watching with wide eyes. When the second pancake attempt slid off the spatula and onto the floor, her lips twitched. When the third attempt somehow stuck to the ceiling, Ethan still wasn't sure how. She laughed. Actually laughed. The sound hit Ethan like electricity, bright and clear and completely unexpected. He turned to stare at her, batter-covered spatula still in hand, and saw something he hadn't seen since the hospital. Genuine joy. Lily clapped her hands over her mouth, but the laughter kept bubbling through. Evelyn grinned from where she was supervising, and definitely not helping. Logan, who'd shown up for morning security briefing, stood in the doorway with something that might have been a smile. I think, Evelyn said, you might need practice, Mr. Cole. No, Logan corrected. He needs supervision. Another laugh from Lily. And Ethan felt something inside him crack. Some wall he'd built so carefully, so necessarily. He looked at this child who'd lost everything, who had every reason to never smile again, and felt the strangest sensation. Hope. That afternoon, while Lily napped, Logan conducted his routine security sweep. He found it in the pocket of her coat, the one she'd been wearing at the hospital, a tracking device, smaller than a dime. State-of-the-art, still active, he brought it to Ethan without a word, holding it in an evidence bag. They stared at it together. How long? Ethan asked. Probably since the hospital, maybe before. Someone's watching her. Someone's watching both of you now. Logan sealed the bag. Sir, this isn't amateur hour. This is military-grade surveillance. Whoever is behind this has resources and training. Ethan looked toward Lily's room, where she slept peacefully, unaware that danger had already found her. Found them. Double security. I want to know if anyone so much as looks at this building funny. Already done, but Ethan. Logan rarely used his first name. You need to understand what you're getting into. This isn't just a little girl who needs a home. This is something bigger. I know. Do you? Because people who use this kind of tech don't stop, they don't quit, and they definitely don't lose. Ethan met his old friend's eyes. Then I guess they've never gone up against someone with nothing left to lose. You're not the one with nothing to lose anymore. Logan gestured toward Lily's room. She is. And that makes you vulnerable in ways you've never been before. I know that too. Logan nodded slowly. Then we'd better be ready. In her Pentagon office, Vanessa cross-reviewed the latest surveillance reports, photos of Ethan Cole and the Bennett girl, grocery store, park, entering a building on Park Avenue, probably a therapist. Given the nameplate, the billionaire was getting attached. Good. Attachment meant predictability. Predictability meant vulnerability. She opened a secure line. "Phantom, I need deep background on Ethan Cole. Everything, finances, associates, skeletons, especially skeletons. On it, General." She disconnected and pulled up another file. Michael Bennett's last project, Project Nightingale. Millions of lines of code. Billions in contracts. And one very dangerous dead engineer who decided to grow a conscience. The child was the key. Michael had hidden his insurance policy somewhere no one would think to look. Somewhere supposedly innocent. Vanessa just had to figure out where, and then eliminate any trace of it. Outside her window, Washington, D.C. sprawled in late afternoon light, monuments casting long shadows. She'd spent 23 years protecting this country, done things that would horrify civilians, made choices that kept the machine running. One more choice wouldn't make a difference, even if that choice was a 7-year-old girl. The Italian restaurant was Lily's choice. Though Ethan suspected Evelyn had planted the suggestion, Trattoria Torelli sat tucked in the West Village, the kind of place tourists walked past without noticing. Inside, checkered tablecloths and the smell of garlic and basil created a warmth that expensive Manhattan restaurants could never replicate. Rosa Torelli emerged from the kitchen like a grandmother from central casting, flour still dusting her apron. "Bellissima bambina." She pinched Lily's cheek gently, then turned to Ethan with appraising eyes. "And you are too thin, too serious. I fix both." Before Ethan could protest, Rosa had swept away their menus and disappeared back into the kitchen. Logan sat at a corner table, his eyes constantly scanning exits and entrances. Mark, their driver, waited outside with the car. Lily's legs swung under the table as she looked around. A family at the next table argued cheerfully in Italian. Somewhere in the back, someone was singing along to opera, playing softly. It felt impossibly normal. The lasagna arrived in steaming portions that seemed designed to feed armies. Lily's eyes went wide. "Try it," Ethan encouraged. She took a careful bite, then her whole face transformed. She chewed slowly, savoring, and for a moment looked like any other happy kid having dinner. Rosa reappeared with lemon gelato on the house for the beautiful girl, and Lily ate it with such concentration that Ethan found himself smiling. When had he last smiled this much? They left at 9:45 p.m., stepping into cool night air. A light drizzle had started, making the sidewalks gleam under streetlights. Logan walked ahead, scanning. Mark had the car door open. "Thank you for dinner," Lily said, clutching Mr. Carrot. "You're welcome." Ethan helped her into the back seat, then slid in beside her. They made it 3 blocks before the white van appeared. It blocked the street ahead with sudden violence. Tires squealing, 2 black SUVs materialized from side streets, boxing them in. Logan's hand went to his weapon. "Mr. Cole, get down." 3 men in black tactical gear emerged, faces covered. Mark accelerated, trying to ram through, but an SUV slammed into their side. The impact was massive, bulletproof glass, spiderwebbed but held, Lily screamed. Ethan covered her with his body, pressing her into the seat. Through the chaos, he heard Logan firing through his window. One attacker went down, but another wrenched open the back door, some kind of hydraulic tool, defeating the locks. Hands grabbed Ethan's shoulder. Trying to pull him away from Lily, she clung to him, screaming, and he held on with everything he had. The attacker was stronger, trained, dragging them apart. "Nightingale!" Lily's voice cut through everything. High and desperate. "Nightingale flies at midnight." The effect was instantaneous. The hands released Ethan. The 3 attackers froze, looking at each other. Some unspoken communication passed between them. The leader made a sharp gesture, and they retreated as quickly as they'd appeared. Vehicles peeled away into the night. Sirens wailed in the distance. Logan's gun was still trained on where the attackers had been. His breathing controlled despite the adrenaline. Mark was on the phone with 911. In the back seat, Ethan held Lily as she shook uncontrollably. "What was that? What did you say?" Her voice came out tiny, muffled against his chest. "Papa taught me. He said if bad people came, I should say those words." Logan turned in his seat, blood from a cut on his forehead trickling down. "She just used a code phrase. Military-grade identification? Those weren't random attackers. They knew exactly what they were after." "What does it mean?" "It means," Logan said grimly, "Michael Bennett was involved in something way over all our heads." The police took statements. Ethan gave edited versions. Attempted robbery, random violence. The officers seemed skeptical but had no reason to push. Rich people got targeted sometimes. Logan's concealed carry permit was in order. No laws broken except by the attackers who were now long gone. Back at the penthouse, Evelyn made hot milk while Ethan sat with Lily on the couch. She was wrapped in a blanket, still trembling. "Mr. Carrot had survived the attack but looked worse for wear. Papa taught me lots of things," Lily said quietly. "Songs with funny words, games with numbers. He said they were special, that I should never forget." Ethan exchanged looks with Logan. "What kind of games?" But Lily was already falling asleep against his arm, exhausted. He carried her to bed, tucked her in, and sat in the chair beside her until her breathing evened out in the hallway. Logan was on his encrypted phone. "Dave, it's Logan Pierce. Yeah, security for Ethan Cole. I need information. Michael Bennett worked for a company called Apex Solutions, military contracts, and apparently his kid just recited some kind of classified code." "No, I'm serious." "Okay, tomorrow and Dave, be careful. People just tried to grab a 7-year-old off the street." In Queens, Dave Chen hung up and stared at his computer screen. Apex Solutions. He'd already found the connection to defense contracts, but this was something else. He opened another encrypted browser and started digging deeper. 20 minutes later, he found it. The Project Nightingale. The name appeared in redacted documents, leaked emails, conspiracy forums, mass surveillance, illegal data collection, billions of dollars in black budget funding, and Michael Bennett's name. Buried in the code, Dave reached for his phone, then stopped. His contact at the FBI was Marcus Webb. Decent guy, family man, by-the-book agent. But this kind of information, this could get people killed. He dialed anyway. "Marcus, it's Dave Chen. Yeah, long time. Listen, I need a favor and it's probably going to sound crazy." Marcus Webb sat in his car outside his house in New Jersey, listening to Dave's information. His wife Jessica was visible through the window, helping their twin sons with homework. 4 years old, identical grins, his whole world. "Dave, you're talking about classified government operations. I can't or won't. Michael Bennett is dead. His kid is being hunted, and there's a billionaire trying to protect her without knowing what he's protecting her from. If I start digging into this, my career is over, maybe worse. And if you don't, how many more people die?" Marcus watched his boys laugh at something Jessica said. "I have a family. So did Michael Bennett." The line went quiet. Finally, Marcus sighed. "I'll make some calls discreetly, but Dave, if this blows back, we never had this conversation." "Understood." At 2:37 a.m., Ethan stood on his terrace, staring at the city 47 floors below. The attack kept replaying in his mind. Those words Lily had screamed, the instant recognition, the retreat. His phone buzzed. Logan, sending a text, found the bug, military grade. Someone's been listening since the hospital. Ethan looked back through the glass doors. Lily's room was dark, peaceful. She was sleeping now, finally. But tomorrow would bring more questions, more danger, more secrets buried in a child's innocent memories. He'd promised to stay, to protect her, but how could he protect her from something he didn't understand? Movement caught his eye. A drone, small and silent, hovering near the building. It stayed for exactly 5 seconds, then vanished into the night. They were still watching. Ethan pulled out his phone and made a decision. "Logan, we need more help. Call everyone you trust. I don't care what it costs. Already on it, sir. And Logan, find out what Project Nightingale really is, because I'm not losing her, not to anyone." He ended the call and looked back at the sleeping child visible through the doorway. Lily Bennett had become his responsibility in a single phone call. But she'd also become something else, his purpose, and he'd be damned if he'd fail her the way the world had failed him. In her Pentagon office, Vanessa watched the drone footage replay. The attack had been a test, not to kidnap the child, but to see how Cole would react, and more importantly, to see what the child knew. Nightingale flies at midnight, the code phrase that Michael had used for their most sensitive operations. A 7-year-old shouldn't know that phrase, shouldn't be able to recite it perfectly under stress, which meant Michael had trained her, programmed her somehow. The child wasn't just a loose end. She was the key. Vanessa opened a new file on her computer and began typing orders. Klaus Berger would need to get involved, her best operative, no conscience, no hesitation, and Phantom would need to start building a digital trail, something that would destroy Ethan Cole's credibility before they moved to more permanent solutions. The child had to be eliminated, but first they needed to extract what was in her head. Vanessa picked up her phone. "Get me Klaus. Tell him I have a high-priority target. A child, age 7. She disconnected and allowed herself a thin smile. Michael Bennett had been brilliant. She'd give him that. But brilliance meant nothing when you were dead, and soon his daughter would join him. Dave Chen arrived at Ethan's penthouse carrying a banker's box stuffed with printed documents. His eyes were bloodshot from 3 days of non-stop research, and he smelled like the gas station coffee that had been keeping him conscious. Michael Bennett wasn't just a software engineer, Dave said. Spreading files across Ethan's dining table, Logan stood watch by the windows. Evelyn had taken Lily to the park. Normal routines, Logan insisted, were important. He was the lead architect on something called Project Nightingale. Military surveillance program, mass data collection without warrants, millions of American citizens tracked, monitored, catalogued. Ethan picked up a document, heavily redacted, marked confidential. "How did you get this?" "Better you don't know." Dave pulled out another file. "Apex Solutions is the contractor. Government pays them billions for a system that's completely unconstitutional. Phone records, GPS data, private cameras hacked, bank accounts monitored, everything." "That's illegal," Sarah Mills said from the doorway. She'd arrived for Lily's therapy session and gotten pulled into the briefing instead. "Extremely illegal," Dave agreed, "and extremely profitable. Politicians get elected on security platforms. Military brass get bigger budgets. Corporations get contracts. Everyone wins. Except the citizens being spied on," Logan added darkly. "Except them," Dave confirmed. Michael found out the data wasn't just being used for terrorism prevention, it was being sold to corporations, foreign governments. Whoever paid, he was going to blow the whistle. Ethan sat heavily. "So they killed him. Made it look like an accident, but I found the original coroner's report before it was corrected. Blunt force trauma inconsistent with a car crash. Michael was murdered. Then they staged the accident to eliminate his wife, the only witness." The room fell silent except for the soft tick of Ethan's antique clock. "I need someone who can break encryption," Ethan said finally. "Someone brilliant." Logan pulled out his phone. "I know someone." Dr. Julia Harper arrived 2 hours later, motorcycle helmet under one arm, leather jacket over a band t-shirt. Her red pixie-cut hair and the mathematical equation tattooed on her wrist marked her as someone who'd never quite fit the corporate mold. At 37, she'd already worked for the NSA, been fired for ethical objections, and built a consulting career helping the good guys. "Nice place," she commented, looking around the penthouse. "Must be doing something right." Ethan handed her a thumb drive. "This came from a safety deposit box. Michael Bennett left it, with instructions to give it to me if anything happened to him. Can you crack it?" Julia plugged it into her custom laptop, a machine that looked like it had been assembled from spare parts and spite. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. 2048-bit military encryption. This'll take time. How much time? Could be hours, could be days. She glanced at him. Coffee would help. 4 hours and 6 cups of coffee later. Julia cracked the first layer. What appeared on screen made everyone in the room go silent. Spreadsheets, thousands of pages, names of senators, judges, generals, financial transactions in the hundreds of millions. Audio files, video recordings, an entire conspiracy laid out in meticulous detail. My God, Sarah whispered. This could bring down half of Washington, Dave said. Julia kept scrolling, her expression grim. This is why they killed him? Michael had everything, proof that Project Nightingale was being used for profit, blackmail, political manipulation. This isn't just surveillance, it's a weapon. Ethan thought of Lily in the park, feeding ducks with Evelyn, laughing at something innocent. They'll kill her for this. They'll kill all of us if they know we have it, Logan corrected. In a windowless Pentagon basement, Vanessa Cross sat across a table from 3 men. General Aaron Miles, 60 years old, chest-heavy with medals earned in wars the public had forgotten. Senator Robert Kane, silver-haired and aristocratic, chairman of the Intelligence Committee. Jonathan Graves, CEO of Apex Solutions, who wore expensive suits and sold weapons to the highest bidder. Bennett left evidence, Vanessa said without preamble. The child is under Cole's protection. They're investigating. Kane slammed his hand on the table. Eliminate them, all of them. Too visible, Miles objected. Cole is a public figure. We start killing billionaires. We attract exactly the attention we're trying to avoid. Then we destroy him first, Graves suggested. His voice was smooth, practiced. This wasn't his first conspiracy. Ruin his reputation, make him radioactive. Then, when he dies in an accident, nobody questions it. Vanessa nodded slowly. I already have assets working on that. But we need to move faster. Every day they have those files is another day. Our operation is at risk. What about the girl? Kane asked. She's the priority. Michael did something with her? I'm sure of it. Trained her somehow. We need to extract whatever information she has, then eliminate the threat permanently. She's 7 years old, Miles said quietly. She's a loose end, Vanessa corrected. Age is irrelevant. Silence hung heavy. Finally, Miles nodded. Kane agreed. Graves smiled like a shark smelling blood. Mobilize Phantom for the digital attack, Vanessa ordered. Klaus for wet work. I want contingencies for every scenario. If Cole won't give up the child voluntarily, we take her by force. At Sarah's next session with Lily, the therapist tried something new, hypnotherapy, controversial with children. But Lily's trust in Sarah made it possible. Just relax, sweetie, close your eyes. Think about your daddy's favorite song. Lily's breathing slowed, her eyelids fluttered. Papa sang to me every night. Can you sing it for me? What came out of Lily's mouth made Sarah's blood run cold. The melody was simple, childlike, but the lyrics were coordinates, access codes, strings of numbers that meant nothing to a child, but everything to someone with the right knowledge. Sarah recorded it all, forcing her voice to stay calm and gentle. When Lily woke from the trance, she remembered nothing, just smiled and asked if they could draw pictures again. Outside, Sarah played the recording for Ethan and Julia. Julia's face went pale. These are military server access codes, geolocation data for classified sites, encryption keys. She looked up, horrified. Michael programmed his daughter like a human hard drive. What kind of father does that? Ethan's voice was rough with anger. A desperate one, Logan said quietly. He knew they'd find and destroy any physical evidence, but nobody would think to look in a child's nursery rhymes. Sarah was shaking. He used mnemonic techniques, hypermemory training disguised as bedtime stories. Lily doesn't even know what she's carrying in her head. To her, they're just songs her father taught her. Songs that could get her killed, Ethan said. Songs that already got her parents killed, Dave corrected. He'd been on his laptop following a digital trail. I found the real accident report. Michael Bennett died 3 hours before the crash. Blunt force trauma, probably beaten for information. When he wouldn't talk, they killed him and staged the car accident to tie up loose ends. Ethan walked to the window, hands clenched into fists. Below, the city moved on, oblivious. Millions of people living their lives, unaware that their government was watching, that men in suits had turned the Constitution into toilet paper, and that a little girl held the only proof that could stop them. "We go public," he said. "They'll kill us before we make it to a press conference," Logan warned. "Then we find someone they can't kill, someone with enough power to protect the information once we release it." "Like who?" Dave asked. Ethan turned. "Like a federal prosecutor who's never taken a bribe, someone idealistic enough to think the law still matters." Logan pulled out his phone. "I might know someone." Marcus Webb sat across from Ryan Blake in a coffee shop in the Bronx. Far from FBI headquarters and prying eyes, Marcus looked terrible. Hadn't slept, kept checking over his shoulder. "They threatened my family," Marcus said. "Showed me pictures of my kids leaving school. Said accidents happen." Ryan Blake was only 29, but he'd already earned a reputation as incorruptible, son of Mexican immigrants. He'd worked his way through law school and into the DOJ. He still believed the system could work if good people fought for it. "What do you want me to do?" Ryan asked. "Your job, investigate, prosecute." Marcus pushed a thumb drive across the table. "But you need to know. These people will kill to protect this. They've already killed. And they'll kill again." Ryan pocketed the drive. "Then I guess I'd better work fast." That night, Ethan sat beside Lily's bed watching her sleep. She looked so small, so innocent. Mr. Carrot was tucked under one arm. Her breathing was soft and even. He'd promised to protect her, but how could he protect her from this? A memory surfaced. Uncle Harold, the day after Ethan's parents' funeral. "You need to be strong now. No crying. Weakness is a luxury you can't afford." Ethan had been 12, scared, alone, and he'd learned to build walls so high that nothing could hurt him again, until a phone call at 2:17 a.m., until a little girl who trusted him to stay. He reached out, gently brushing hair from Lily's forehead. She stirred, mumbled something about pancakes, then settled back into sleep. "I'm going to fix this," he whispered, "whatever it takes." His phone buzzed. A text from Julia. "Found something. Michael left a video message. You need to see this." Ethan took one last look at Lily, then quietly left the room. In his office, Julia had the video queued up on his computer. Michael Bennett appeared on screen. Looking exhausted and terrified, dark circles under his eyes, hands shaking slightly. "My name is Michael Bennett. If you're watching this, I'm dead, but the truth doesn't die with me. Project Nightingale is illegal mass surveillance. Sold for profit to the highest bidder. Vanessa Cross, General Miles, Senator Kane, Jonathan Graves. They're all complicit, and they killed me to hide it." Michael paused, taking a shaky breath. "Lily, my daughter, carries the proof. I trained her without her knowing, the songs, the games. They're all encoded data. I'm sorry, sweetheart, I'm so sorry, but someone needed to know." His eyes filled with tears. "Ethan Cole, if you've protected my daughter this far, thank you. You're the man I knew you'd be. Please finish what I started, expose them, all of them, and tell Lily. Tell her Papa loved her more than anything." The video ended. Ethan stared at the blank screen, hands gripping the desk edge. Michael had chosen him, planned it. The phone call wasn't an accident. It was a desperate father's last gambit to save his child, and Ethan had inherited not just a daughter, but a war. "We need to protect her," he said. "Move somewhere they can't find us, somewhere we can plan our next move." Logan nodded. "I know a place." Outside the window, a small drone hovered in the darkness. Camera trained on Ethan's office. It recorded everything, transmitted it all back to its operator in Virginia. Phantom watched the footage on 6 screens simultaneously. He typed a quick message. "Target knows about Nightingale. Video evidence exists. Child is confirmed asset." Seconds later, Vanessa's response appeared. "Accelerate timeline. Operation Defamation begins now." The first domino had fallen. The rest would follow like clockwork. The Connecticut safe house sat on 50 acres of wooded property, surrounded by electrified fences and infrared cameras. Logan had secured it through a former military contact, the kind of place that didn't appear on any official records. Lily loved it immediately. "Can I go outside?" she asked, pressing her face against the window. Trees stretched in every direction. Nothing like Manhattan's concrete and glass. "After breakfast." "Sweetheart," Evelyn said, already unpacking kitchen supplies. Logan's German Shepherd Tank bounded up to Lily and licked her face. She giggled, the first genuinely carefree sound Ethan had heard from her in days. Tank was 5 years old, trained for protection but gentle with family. Within an hour, they were inseparable. The routine they established felt almost normal. Mornings, Lily helped Evelyn make cookies. Chocolate chip. From Evelyn's grandmother's recipe, the kitchen filled with the scent of butter and vanilla. Flour dusted every surface. Lily's laugh rang out when she caught Ethan sneaking raw dough. Afternoons belonged to chess. Ethan set up the board on the porch, teaching her the basic moves. She learned faster than expected, her mind absorbing patterns with ease that Michael would have recognized. "Why can the knight move weird?" Lily asked, hopping the piece in an L shape. "Because sometimes the most powerful moves are the ones nobody expects," Ethan said. She studied the board with intense concentration, so young, but already thinking 3 moves ahead. Evenings, Ethan read to her. Alice in Wonderland became their book. Lily's choice. She loved the absurdity, the nonsense that somehow made sense. Ethan did voices, making her laugh at his terrible British accent. But Logan never stopped patrolling. His eyes constantly scanned the tree line. He'd installed motion sensors at every entrance point, pressure plates on the access road, and had a go-bag ready in case they needed to run. Because beneath the facade of normalcy, everyone knew the truth. They were being hunted. In Washington, D.C., Marcus Webb sat in his FBI office trying to look busy while his mind raced. Director Assistant Richard Crow had called him to a meeting in 5 minutes. That couldn't be good. Crow's office was on the 7th floor, executive territory. Photos on the wall showed him shaking hands with presidents, senators, foreign dignitaries, a man who'd spent 30 years building political capital. "Agent Webb?" Crow didn't look up from his computer. "I understand you've been asking questions about Apex Solutions." Marcus's throat went dry. "Just routine follow-up on..." "There's nothing routine about classified defense contracts." Now Crow did look up, and his eyes were cold. "This investigation is closed, national security concerns, above your pay grade. Sir, I have evidence of..." "I don't care what you think you have." Crow stood, walked around his desk. "Your wife, Jessica, teaches at Lincoln Elementary, correct? And your twin boys attend there." The threat was explicit enough without being spoken. Marcus felt his hands clench. "Sir, Agent Webb, you're a good man, dedicated, but sometimes dedication means knowing when to step back for the good of everyone involved." Crow's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Are we clear?" Marcus wanted to tell him to go to hell, wanted to throw his badge on the desk and walk out, but he thought of Michael and David, 4 years old, running around that playground. Thought of Jessica, who trusted him to keep them safe. "Clear, sir." "Good. Take the rest of the day off. Spend time with your family. Remember what's important." Marcus left, hands shaking. In his car, he called Jessica. "I need you to pick up the boys early. Pack bags. We're spending a few days at your mother's." "Marcus, what's wrong?" "Just please trust me." He hung up and sat in the parking lot, staring at his phone. Ryan Blake's number was right there. One call, he could do the right thing, or he could protect his children. The choice felt impossible. That night in Connecticut, Lily woke from another nightmare. Ethan heard her from down the hall. Not screaming this time, just soft crying. He found her sitting up in bed, clutching Mr. Carrot, tears streaming silently. "Hey!" He sat on the edge of her bed. "Bad dream. Will you leave me?" The question came out so small, like everyone else. Ethan felt his heart crack. What do you mean? Mama and Papa left. My teacher said kids without parents go away, far away. She looked up at him with eyes too old for 7. Are you going to send me away? He pulled her into his arms. Lily, listen to me. You are not a burden. You're not a problem to be solved. The words felt foreign in his mouth. You're my family now. Promise? I promise. With everything I have. She buried her face in his chest, crying harder now. He held her until the tears stopped, until her breathing evened out. When she finally fell back asleep, he stayed in the chair beside her bed, watching the rise and fall of her small chest. Uncle Harold had never sat with him after nightmares. Man up, Ethan, world doesn't stop for tears. But Ethan wasn't his uncle, and Lily would know love, even if he had to learn how to give it. The next morning, while Lily was occupied with Tank and a tennis ball, Ethan went to the storage room. Among the boxes they'd brought from New York was one marked Lily's Things, belongings the social worker had collected from the Bennett house. Inside, he found photo albums, drawings, certificates from school, and at the bottom, a sealed envelope addressed in Michael's handwriting, "To whoever cares for my daughter." Ethan's hands shook as he opened it. If you're reading this, then my plan worked. The phone call wasn't a mistake. I programmed your number into the hospital's emergency system. I researched you for months. Ethan Cole, orphaned at 12, built an empire alone, never married, no family. I knew you'd understand her loneliness, that you'd have the resources to protect her, and that beneath all those walls you've built, you still had a heart capable of love. I needed someone who understood loss, someone with power enough to fight my enemies, but most of all, someone with the kindness I saw in your early interviews before you learned to hide it. Thank you for being that man, for choosing love when you could have chosen indifference, for fighting when you could have walked away. Please finish what I started, expose them, and love my daughter the way I would have. She has your gift for patterns. Nurture it. But teach her that character matters more than achievement. You already know this. It's why I chose you with eternal gratitude, Michael Bennett. Ethan read it 3 times, tears tracking silently down his face. Not an accident, not a coincidence, a desperate father's calculated gamble on a stranger's buried humanity. And somehow, impossibly, it had worked. He folded the letter carefully and looked out the window. Lily was teaching Tank to fetch, her laughter carrying on the wind. Evelyn watched from the porch. Logan checked something on his tablet, always vigilant. This was what Michael had given him, not just a child to protect, but a purpose, a family, a reason to be more than just successful. At 4:23 a.m., Logan's proximity alarms triggered. He was up instantly, weapon drawn, checking monitors. 3 drones, small, silent, military grade, circling the property's perimeter. They stayed just outside weapons range, mapping the area with thermal imaging. He woke Ethan quietly. We've been found. How long do we have? Hours. Maybe less. Logan was already pulling up secure lines, contacting his network. We need to move again, or we need to end this. Ethan looked toward Lily's room. I'm tired of running. She deserves better than constantly looking over her shoulder. Agreed. So what's the play? We go on offense, make the evidence public before they can stop us. They'll kill us. They're going to kill us anyway, Ethan said. At least this way, we make it mean something. Logan nodded slowly. I'll set up secure communications, but Ethan, once we start this, there's no going back. I know. In the woods beyond the fence line, Klaus Berger watched through night vision binoculars. He'd been observing for 3 days, learning their patterns. The ex-military guard was good, professional, alert, but everyone had vulnerabilities. The child walked the same path every afternoon. 2 security cameras didn't quite overlap their coverage zones for exactly 7 seconds. The dog would be a problem, but nothing Klaus couldn't handle. He made notes on his tablet, sent them encrypted to Vanessa. Her response came back within minutes. Proceed with extraction, priority. Child alive for interrogation, others expendable. Klaus smiled in the darkness. He'd done harder missions with worse odds. A little girl and her makeshift family. This would be over by tomorrow night. He settled in to wait. Patience was the hunter's greatest weapon. Inside the house, Lily woke early and padded downstairs. Dawn light was just breaking. She found Ethan in the kitchen, already making coffee. "Can't sleep?" he asked. She shook her head, climbing onto a stool. "I had a good dream, though. We were all here and nobody was scared, and you smiled a lot." "I smile. Not like in the dream. In the dream you were." "Happy?" Ethan poured her orange juice. "What would make me happy? Staying like this forever?" She swung her legs. "Can we?" He wanted to say yes, wanted to promise her that life could be simple and safe and permanent. But he'd learned long ago that promises meant nothing unless you could keep them. "I'm working on it," he said instead. "Working on happy. Working on forever." She smiled, that bright, trusting smile that destroyed him every time. "Okay, I can wait." Outside, Tank started barking. Logan's voice came through the intercom. "Perimeter breach, northeast quadrant. Ethan, get Lily to the safe room now." The peaceful morning shattered like glass. Forever would have to wait. The media explosion happened at 6:47 a.m. on a Thursday. Every major network led with the same story: tech billionaire accused of kidnapping orphan for corporate blackmail. Ethan stared at the television in disbelief. His photo, a deliberately unflattering shot from some shareholder meeting, appeared next to a recent picture of Lily at the park, taken without their knowledge. The contrast was damning: wealthy predator and vulnerable child. Sources inside the FBI confirm that Ethan Cole is under investigation for allegedly kidnapping 7-year-old Lily Bennett to access classified information her father possessed. The CNN anchor declared, "Financial records show suspicious offshore transfers totaling millions of dollars." "That's not," Ethan started. "Fabricated," Logan finished grimly, pulling up his own analysis on his laptop. "Every piece of evidence is manufactured. The transfers don't exist in reality. Someone with serious resources did this overnight." The Fox News segment was worse. They'd found Gregory Nash, a former Cole Tech employee Ethan had fired for incompetence. Gregory looked earnest and concerned as he told the interviewer, "I always suspected something wasn't right. Ethan talked about using any means necessary for competitive advantage. When I heard about the child, I knew I had to come forward." $500,000, Logan said, showing the bank transfer to Gregory's account. Phantom's work, probably. Clean, untraceable, but obvious if you know what to look for. Social media caught fire. "Rudry Arrestethan Cole" trended worldwide within an hour. Instagram flooded with posts demanding justice. Twitter mobs called for his imprisonment. Strangers who'd never met him became experts on his character. His motivations, his guilt. Coltech's stock plummeted 43% by market open. Partners issued statements distancing themselves. Board members called emergency meetings. Philip Morrison, the ambitious VP who'd always resented Ethan's control, saw his opportunity and seized it. By noon, the board had voted. Ethan Cole was removed as CEO. At 11:15 a.m., 8 FBI vehicles appeared at the Connecticut property. Logan met them at the gate, examined the warrants. All legal, all legitimate, or at least appearing legitimate. Richard Crowe led the team personally, which told Ethan everything he needed to know about how high this conspiracy reached. "Ethan Cole, you're under arrest for kidnapping, extortion, and conspiracy." Crowe's voice carried the weight of bureaucratic satisfaction. "You have the right to remain silent." "This is a setup," Ethan said. Even as handcuffs clicked around his wrists. "Those financial records are fake. Talk to Ryan Blake at the DOJ. Mr. Blake has no jurisdiction here. Save it for your lawyer." From the staircase, Lily's scream cut through everything. "No, Ethan!" She came running, but Evelyn caught her, held her back. Lily struggled, sobbing, reaching for him. You promised." Ethan tried to turn toward her, but agents blocked him. "Lily, listen to me. Step away from the child, sir." "I'll fix this," Ethan called desperately as they pulled him toward the door. "I swear, I'll—" "You're a liar," Lily screamed, tears streaming, her voice cracked with betrayal. "You promised to stay, you lied!" The last thing Ethan saw before they pushed him into the vehicle was Lily's face, devastated, betrayed, the trust he'd worked so hard to build shattering like glass. 3 white vans from Child Protective Services arrived simultaneously. Denise Hartman emerged from the first, clipboard in hand, face set in bureaucratic stone. "Lily Bennett will be transferred to state custody pending investigation," she announced. "The hell she will," Logan said. "This is my property. You have no—" "We have a court order." Denise produced documents. "Ms. Carter, please prepare the child for transport." Evelyn stood firm. "This child is safe here. That man loves her, whatever evidence you think you have. Ms. Carter, do not interfere, or you'll be charged with obstruction." Lily clung to Evelyn, sobbing, "I want Ethan, please. He didn't do anything wrong." But courts didn't care about tears. The law moved with mechanical precision. Social workers pried Lily's hands from Evelyn's dress. She fought, kicking, screaming, begging. He promised to stay." They carried her to the van while she struggled. Her cries echoed across the property, each one a knife in Ethan's chest as they drove him away in a separate vehicle. The last sound he heard was his name, screamed in desperate betrayal by a child who'd already lost everything once. Now she'd lost it again. In Queens, Julia Harper watched the news coverage with growing rage. "This is character assassination. Every piece of evidence is too perfect, too convenient." Dave Chen nodded. "Already tracing digital footprints. The leak came from a Pentagon IP address. Someone inside government fed this to the media. We need to go public with what we know. With what proof? We can't use the encrypted files. They're technically classified. And Marcus Webb is too scared to testify." Dave ran his hands through his hair. "They outplayed us." Julia's fingers flew across her keyboard. "Then we play better." Marcus Webb sat in his living room. Watching CNN with his wife beside him, Jessica hadn't said anything, but her silence spoke volumes. "You know something about this," she finally said. Marcus couldn't meet her eyes. "It's complicated. An innocent man is in jail. A child is traumatized, uncomplicated. Jess, if I get involved—" "What?" She turned to face him fully. "What happens? They threaten our family. They already threatened our family, Marcus. That's why we're at my mother's house instead of our home." "Exactly. I'm trying to protect you by letting them win." Jessica's voice was gentle but firm. "What kind of father do I want our boys to have? One who made the easy choice, or one who made the right choice? Even when it was hard." Marcus looked at their sons, playing with toys in the corner. Michael and David oblivious to the adult world's complexities. What would he tell them someday when they asked what he'd done? He pulled out his phone, found Logan Pierce's number. "I'm in," he said when Logan answered. "Whatever you need, I'll testify." In the federal detention center, Ethan sat in a grey cell that smelled of urine and despair. The walls were concrete. The bed was a metal shelf. He'd gone from a penthouse to this in less than 6 hours, but none of that mattered compared to Lily's face, that last look. That terrible moment when trust died. "You lied." His lawyer, Martin Strauss, arrived with bad news. "They're denying bail, flight risk, they say, and Ethan, public opinion is against you. The jury pool is poisoned before we even get to trial." "What about Lily?" "She's in a group home." "Bright future home?" "State facility. You'll have no access during the investigation." Ethan put his head in his hands. Bright future home. He'd researched it once for a corporate charity drive. Overcrowded, underfunded, 50 kids and 6 overworked staff members. "Get Ryan Blake," Ethan said. "Tell him it's time." Miles away, Lily sat on an unfamiliar bed in an unfamiliar room, surrounded by unfamiliar faces. 3 other girls stared at her curiously. The walls were institutional beige. The thin mattress smelled like bleach and old sweat. She clutched Mr. Carrot and refused to speak. Angela Santos, the facility manager, tried to coax her into eating. "Honey, you need to have something, just a little." Lily turned her face to the wall. Angela sighed. She'd been doing this job for 15 years, seen countless traumatized children. But something about this one broke her heart in a special way. "Okay, sweetie, when you're ready." That night, Lily drew on the single piece of paper she'd been given. She drew Ethan beside her. But between them, she drew a broken heart underneath in careful 7-year-old handwriting. He promised. Across the city, Vanessa Cross reviewed the day's success. Cole was imprisoned. The child was isolated. Evidence had been planted perfectly. The media had done its job. Phase 1 complete, she reported to Kane and Graves via secure video conference. The billionaire is neutralized. "And the child?" Graves asked. "Accessible," Vanessa smiled coldly. "Klaus will extract her when the time is right. We'll interrogate her, extract whatever information she has, then eliminate the liability." "She's 7 years old," Miles said quietly from his screen. "She's a threat to national security," Vanessa corrected. "Age is irrelevant." None of them noticed that someone was listening, that Phantom, the hacker they'd hired, had his own insurance policy, that every conversation they'd had for the past month was being recorded in a backup server. None of them knew existed because Phantom had learned long ago. Nobody was truly loyal in this business, and the highest bidder could always change. In a bar in Brooklyn, Logan Pierce met Marcus Webb in a back booth. Marcus looked terrible, hadn't slept in days, kept checking his phone for threats. "They threatened my family," Marcus said. "Showed me pictures of my kids." "I know." Logan pushed a pen drive across the table. "But I have something better. Recordings of Vanessa Cross ordering the evidence fabrication, emails between the conspirators. Everything. How? Marcus, we don't have time for how. The question is, are you brave enough to use it?" Marcus stared at the drive. His hand shook as he reached for it. Thought of Jessica's words. Thought of his sons asking him someday what he'd done when it mattered. "I'm brave enough to try." Logan smiled grimly. "Then let's go to war." In his cell, Ethan lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Somewhere across the city, Lily was doing the same. Both of them alone, both of them trapped by forces beyond their control. But in the darkness, a spark of hope remained, because Logan was moving. Julia was hacking, Marcus was gathering courage, Ryan was building a case. The Empire had struck first, but the rebellion was just beginning. 10 days in federal detention changed Ethan. He posted bail, 10 million from a personal account they hadn't managed to freeze, but returning to his penthouse felt like entering a mausoleum. The silence was oppressive. Lily's room stood exactly as she'd left it. Unicorns on the walls, books stacked on the nightstand, Mr. Carrot the Coup sitting on her pillow. Ethan stood in the doorway, unable to cross the threshold. The smell of strawberry shampoo still lingered faintly. He could almost hear her laugh echoing through the empty space. Logan found him there 20 minutes later, just standing, staring. "Sir, we need to discuss." "She thinks I abandoned her." Ethan's voice was hollow. "Just like everyone else in her life?" Logan said nothing. There was nothing to say. That night at 3:41 a.m., Ethan stood on his terrace, 47 floors up, wind whipping at his clothes. The city sprawled below. Indifferent to his pain, one step. That's all it would take. The fall would last maybe 8 seconds, then nothing. No more fighting, no more guilt, no more seeing Lily's betrayed face every time he closed his eyes. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He almost ignored it, but muscle memory made him check. Lily's face smiled up at him from the screen. His wallpaper. From that day they'd made pancakes, flour on her nose, pure joy in her eyes. Before everything went wrong, Ethan stepped back from the edge, legs shaking. He slid down against the wall, phone clutched to his chest, and for the first time since his parents' funeral, he let himself break. Sobs came in waves, decades of walls crumbling, Uncle Harold's voice echoing, "Stop crying, be a man." But he wasn't a man right now. He was just broken, just human, just someone who'd failed the one person who'd trusted him completely. At Bright Future Home, Lily experienced her own hell. The group home was exactly as bad as Ethan had feared. 50 children in a facility built for 30. Angela Santos did her best, but one woman couldn't be everywhere. Lily refused to speak, ate only when forced, spent hours staring at walls. The other children gave her wide berth. Something about her silence was more disturbing than tantrums would have been. She'd gone somewhere deep inside herself, where no one could reach her. One night, Tommy Martinez found her in the hallway at 2 a.m., sitting against the wall, crying without sound. Tommy was 12, had been in the system for 4 years. He'd seen kids break in every possible way. But something about Lily reminded him of his little sister before foster care had separated them. "First month's the worst," he said, sitting beside her. "But you survive. Everyone does." Lily looked at him with eyes too old for 7. "He promised to stay. Adults always promise." Tommy's voice was matter-of-fact. "Doesn't mean they keep it. But he was different. That's what we all think at first." Lily pulled her knees to her chest. "What if I was wrong? What if nobody stays?" Tommy didn't have an answer. He just sat with her until she cried herself out, then walked her back to her room. He didn't tell her that he wondered the same thing every day. In New Jersey, Marcus Webb couldn't sleep. Jessica was already asleep beside him, trusting him to do the right thing. His sons breathed softly in the next room, innocent and safe. For now, he grabbed his phone and stepped outside. Dialed Logan's number. "I'm in," he said quietly. "Whatever you need, I'll testify about the coercion, but I need protection for my family." "Already arranged," Logan said. "Safe house outside Baltimore. Federal marshals. Best we can do." Marcus looked back at his house. Leaving meant his career was over, meant his family would be in permanent danger, meant choosing a path with no guaranteed outcome. "When do we start?" "Tomorrow, Ryan Blake is convening an emergency hearing. We'll present everything." Marcus closed his eyes. Okay, let's do it." In Queens, Julia Harper and Dave Chen had transformed his shabby office into a war room. Laptops covered every surface. Cables snaked across the floor. Coffee cups formed a small mountain. "I've got access to Phantom's backup servers," Julia announced. "He kept everything. Every order Vanessa gave. Every email between the conspirators. It's all here." Dave leaned over her shoulder. "That's enough to bury them." "If we can present it before they kill us," Julia said grimly. "They're monitoring us. Have to assume they know we're close. Then we move fast. Get it to Ryan before they react." Julia's fingers flew across the keyboard. "Already uploading to a secure server. Multiple backups, even if they get us." "The truth survives." Dave watched her work, seeing her determination, her fierce intelligence, her complete commitment to justice. When had he fallen for her? Somewhere between the 3rd all-nighter and the 5th pot of coffee. Probably Julia. "Not now, Dave. Focus. When this is over. If we survive, you can ask me to dinner." She didn't look away from her screen, but he saw her smile. "Deal. Deal." Sarah Mills sat across from Ryan Blake in his DOJ office, presenting her psychological analysis. "I've worked with Lily for months. The bond between her and Ethan is genuine, organic, healthy. This wasn't manipulation. It was mutual healing." Ryan studied the reports. At 29, he still believed the system could work if good people fought for it. Looking at Sarah's evidence, he knew this was his fight. "If I move on this, I'm going against the FBI, Pentagon, sitting senators. My career is over. If you don't move on this, an innocent man stays imprisoned and a child stays traumatized by a conspiracy that murdered her parents." Sarah leaned forward. "What matters more? Ryan, your career or your conscience?" He thought of his parents, immigrants who'd believed in American justice, who'd taught him that the law should protect everyone, not just the powerful. "Set up a meeting with Judge Delgado," he said. "We're going to need someone who can't be bought." That night, Ethan received an anonymous envelope. No return address, no note, just a single piece of paper inside, Lily's drawing, the one she'd made at the group home. Him and her, separated by a broken heart, the words, "He promised." Ethan stared at it for a long time. Then carefully, reverently, he placed it in a frame beside his bed. "I'm coming for you," he whispered to the drawing. "I swear to God I'm coming." His phone rang. "Logan, Marcus Webb flipped. Julia has all the evidence. Ryan Blake is moving tomorrow. We've got one shot at this." What do you need from me? Stay alive, stay sane, and be ready to testify." Logan paused. "And Ethan, we're going to win this, I promise." "Don't promise," Ethan said, looking at Lily's drawing. "Promises break. Just get her back." Across town in her Pentagon office, Vanessa Cross received an urgent message from Phantom. "They have everything moving tomorrow. Recommend immediate extraction of child, elimination of all witnesses." She stared at the message for 10 seconds, then picked up her secure phone. "Klaus, execute Plan B tonight, Bright Future home. Extract the Bennett girl, leave no witnesses." "Understood." She hung up and poured herself whiskey. Michael Bennett had been more thorough than she'd anticipated. But thoroughness didn't matter when everyone who knew the truth was dead. The child would talk. They'd get what they needed from her memory. Then both she and Cole would have tragic accidents. Problem solved. At Bright Future home, Angela Santos made her 11 p.m. rounds, all children accounted for, doors locked, security system armed. Though security was generous for the outdated cameras and flimsy locks a non-profit could afford, she didn't notice the 3 figures approaching through the darkness, didn't see Klaus Berger cut power to the cameras with professional efficiency, didn't hear them bypass the locks. But Tommy Martinez, who'd learned to sleep light in foster care, heard the subtle click of the door opening, heard footsteps that were too quiet, too controlled. He slipped out of his room and saw men in tactical gear. Night vision equipment moving like ghosts through the hallway. Tommy ran to Lily's room, shook her awake. "Bad men coming now, stay quiet." Her eyes went wide, remembering the attack in Manhattan. Remembering violence and fear, Tommy pulled her out of bed, led her to a supply closet in the basement he'd discovered months ago. Staff didn't know about it. Hidden behind old furniture, he shoved her inside. "Lock the door from outside. Don't make a sound, I'll come back." Klaus found Lily's room empty. Fury flashed across his face. He grabbed another child. Mia, 9 years old, terrified. "Where is Lily Bennett?" Mia whimpered, shook her head. Klaus raised his weapon. Sirens outside, multiple vehicles. Logan and Dave Chen burst through the front door, weapons drawn. "Federal agents, drop your weapons." Klaus's team scattered. Gunfire erupted, children screamed. Angela Santos tried to evacuate kids while bullets punched through walls. Logan and Klaus met in the hallway, both professionals, both trained killers. The fight was brutal, hand to hand when they ran out of ammunition. Klaus landed a vicious strike to Logan's shoulder. Logan responded with a knee that shattered Klaus's arm. Police flooded in. Klaus went down. His team was captured or killed. In the chaos, Tommy retrieved Lily from the closet. She was shaking violently, eyes glazed with shock. Logan found them, blood seeping through his shirt from the shoulder wound. "Lily, it's me, Logan, friend of Ethan's." She stared at him, trying to process. "Ethan, he's alive, fighting to get you back. He never stopped fighting." Tears welled up. "He's alive, alive and coming for you, I promise." Lily threw herself into Logan's arms, sobbing. He held her despite the pain in his shoulder. This broken little girl who'd been through too much. Is he really coming? Wild horses couldn't stop him. By dawn, the media narrative had already started to shift. Klaus Berger in custody, singing to reduce his sentence. Evidence of the attack on a children's home. Questions being raised about who had ordered it and why. But the real earthquake was still coming, and it would shake everything. Judge Martha Delgado's courtroom filled with an unusual crowd. Not just lawyers and litigants, but reporters who sensed something historic was happening. Ryan Blake stood at the prosecution table, while Martin Strauss represented Ethan. In the gallery, Ethan sat between Logan and Sarah Mills. Lily was in a private room, being cared for by Angela Santos. Too young for testimony, but Ryan had other plans. "Your Honor," Ryan began, "I'm presenting evidence that Ethan Cole is victim of a conspiracy orchestrated by elements within our own government. What follows will be disturbing, but it's all true." Julia Harper took the stand first. Sworn in, credentials established. She connected her laptop to the courtroom's projection system. "These are forensic analyses of the evidence used to indict Mr. Cole." Her presentation was clinical, Devastating. Every piece has been fabricated. The emails were created using software designed for intelligence agencies. The metadata proves they were generated 48 hours before they were discovered. The financial transactions traced to shell companies that don't legally exist, she showed code. Timestamps, digital fingerprints, the technical details were overwhelming. But the conclusion was clear. Someone with serious resources had framed Ethan Cole. Who had that level of access? Judge Delgado asked. Government entities, Pentagon, possibly CIA. Julia pulled up server logs. The fabrication originated from IP addresses registered to Pentagon servers. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Delgado banged her gavel. Marcus Webb took the stand next, pale but resolute. His voice shook as he confessed, I was coerced by Director Assistant Richard Crowe to provide false testimony against Ethan Cole. He showed me photographs of my children leaving school. The threat was implicit but clear. Cooperate or my family would be harmed. Ryan played audio recordings. Julia had managed to extract them from Marcus's phone after he'd secretly recorded conversations. Crowe's voice filled the courtroom. Your wife teaches at Lincoln Elementary, correct? Your boys attend there too. Would be tragic if something happened. More gasps, more frantic note-taking from reporters. Why did they want Mr. Cole destroyed? Ryan asked. To stop him from exposing Project Nightingale, an illegal mass surveillance program being run for profit by defense contractors and government officials. Ryan introduced the thumb drive from Michael Bennett. Julia testified to its contents. Names, dates, transactions, recordings, a conspiracy so vast it seemed almost impossible. How do we know Michael Bennett didn't fabricate this? Martin Strauss objected. Playing devil's advocate, Ryan had anticipated this because we have corroborating evidence from the very people he accused. The courtroom screen lit up with a video Michael Bennett recorded weeks before his death. Looking directly into the camera, my name is Michael Bennett. If you're watching this, they killed me. Project Nightingale is real. Mass surveillance sold to the highest bidder, General Vanessa Cross. Senator Robert Kane, General Aaron Miles, Jonathan Graves of Apex Solutions, they're all complicit, and they murdered me to hide it. Michael's voice cracked with emotion. Lily, my daughter, carries the proof. I trained her without her knowing. The songs, the games, all encoded data. I'm so sorry, baby girl Ethan Cole. Finish what I started. Expose them. All of them. The video ended. Silence filled the courtroom. Judge Delgado looked shaken. This court will recess while I review all evidence. But Director Crowe, you're suspended effective immediately, bailiff. Escort him out. Crowe stood red-faced, trying to protest. But security moved in, and he was led away in handcuffs while court recessed. Another drama unfolded at Bright Future Home. Klaus Berger, facing life in prison, decided his only leverage was information. He called Ryan Blake from his cell. I'll tell you everything, every operation, every target, but I want a deal. Ryan brought a recorder. Klaus talked for 4 hours straight. Vanessa Cross hired us to eliminate 7 people connected to Project Nightingale over 2 years. Michael Bennett was target 5. His wife was target 6. The plan for the child was interrogation, then elimination. Interrogation for what? Michael programmed classified information into her memory. We needed to extract it before silencing her. Ryan felt sick. They'd planned to torture a 7-year-old for information, then murder her. Who else is involved? Klaus listed names, senators, generals, CEOs. The conspiracy reached further than anyone had imagined. Armed with this information, Ryan obtained arrest warrants. FBI agents not connected to Crowe led the raids. Senator Robert Kane was arrested in his Capitol office. Still arguing about immunity, General Miles was taken from the Pentagon in front of his staff. Jonathan Graves was captured at a private airfield, passport in hand, clearly running, and Vanessa Cross, sitting in her office, knew the game was over when agents burst through her door. She didn't resist, didn't plead, just smiled coldly. You think this ends here? There are systems bigger than me, bigger than all of you. Maybe. Ryan said, watching her being cuffed, but this particular gear just broke. The media explosion was instantaneous. Cable news ran split screens. Arrests happening live while court proceedings continued. The narrative that had destroyed Ethan reversed overnight. Hero, victim, father fighting for his daughter. At the hospital, where Lily was being examined after the attack, Ethan finally got permission to see her. He walked down that hallway like a man approaching judgment. The door opened. Lily sat in a bed too big for her, IVs in her small arm, Angela Santos beside her. Tommy sat in a chair, having refused to leave her. Lily's head turned, saw him for 3 seconds, nothing happened, then tears. Ethan! Her voice was so small, so uncertain. He crossed the room in 3 steps, dropped to his knees beside the bed. I'm here. I'm so sorry. I fought every day to get back to you. I never gave up, never. But you left. Her voice cracked. You promised to stay, and you left. I know. His own tears fell freely now. I know, and I hate myself for it. But I'm here now, and I swear to you on everything I am. I will never leave again. Lily searched his face, looking for truth. Whatever she saw there made her believe. She launched herself at him, sobbing. Ethan held her like she was the only thing keeping him anchored to earth. Maybe she was. I love you, Lily, so much, she cried against his neck. I love you too. Daddy, the word Daddy broke something and repaired something simultaneously. Ethan held her tighter. This child who'd saved him as much as he'd saved her. Angela and Tommy quietly left the room, giving them privacy. In the hallway, Logan stood guard, smiling despite his wounded shoulder. Sarah Mills appeared beside him. They're going to be okay. Yeah, Logan agreed. They are in Washington, D.C. The trials began. Vanessa Cross showed no remorse during her testimony. She'd spent 23 years protecting the country, she said. Sometimes protection required darkness. The jury wasn't swayed. 25 years. General Miles broke down during sentencing. All his medals, his distinguished career, destroyed, 30 years in military prison. Senator Kane's arrogance finally crumbled when the guilty verdicts were read. 35 years, at 67 he'd die behind bars. Jonathan Graves tried to negotiate, offering information on other conspiracies. Ryan refused. 40 years plus $2 billion in fines. Apex Solutions dissolved. Assets seized. Crow committed suicide before trial. A final act of cowardice, Marcus Webb entered witness protection with his family. His testimony had saved lives, but cost him everything else. Ryan visited before they left. You did the right thing, Ryan said. Doesn't feel like it. Marcus looked at his sons playing nearby, oblivious. But maybe someday it will. 6 weeks after the arrests, Judge Delgado presided over a different kind of hearing. Adoption proceedings. The courtroom was small, private. Only family and close friends attended. Logan, Evelyn, Sarah, Julia, and Dave, now officially dating. Ryan Blake, Marcus, and Jessica Webb, who'd become friends during the ordeal. Tommy Martinez. Lily Grace Bennett, Judge Delgado said with a rare smile. Do you understand that adoption is permanent? That Ethan Cole will be your legal father in every sense? Lily stood beside Ethan, holding his hand. Yes, Your Honor. And do you want him to be your father? Lily looked up at Ethan with absolute certainty. He already is. This is just making it official. Laughter, warm and genuine, filled the room. Ethan Cole, do you accept full responsibility for this child until she reaches adulthood and beyond? I do with all my heart. Delgado banged her gavel gently. Then, by the authority of New York State, I declare this adoption finalized. Lily Grace Cole, welcome officially to your family. Applause, hugs, tears of joy. The official photograph showed Ethan and Lily, adoption certificate between them. Both smiling. Not the careful, controlled smile Ethan had worn for years. Real joy. Later, at the penthouse, Evelyn prepared a feast, Southern cooking. Fried chicken, mashed potatoes, peach pie. Lily played chess with Tommy, teaching him moves Ethan had taught her. Logan and Marcus discussed football. Julia and Sarah talked about cognitive psychology. Dave took photos with an old film camera. documenting joy. Ethan stood on his terrace. Watching the celebration through the glass, Ryan joined him. "How do you feel?" "Complete," Ethan smiled. "For the first time in my life, complete. You saved her. We saved each other." Inside, Lily called for him. Time to cut the cake. Chocolate, her favorite. He headed back to his family, back to his purpose. The photograph from the adoption went on his wall, but around it, slowly, appeared others. Trips to museums, birthday parties, school plays, life documented and celebrated. Lily, age 8, asked him one night, "What did you wish for when you were little?" Ethan thought about it. "To not be alone anymore." "Me too," she hugged him. "Good thing we found each other. Best thing that ever happened to me." "To me too, Daddy." And for the first time since that phone call at 2:17 a.m., Ethan Cole knew exactly where he belonged. 2 weeks after the adoption, arrests continued cascading through Washington's power structure. Klaus Berger's testimony, combined with evidence from Project Nightingale's servers, implicated 37 additional individuals. Ryan Blake, coordinated from a war room in the Department of Justice, maps covering walls with red strings connecting conspirators. He'd been promoted to Assistant U.S. Attorney, leading the task force. At 29, he'd become the face of accountability. Vanessa Cross's trial was covered like the Super Bowl. Court TV ran continuous coverage. She sat straight-backed in her orange jumpsuit, showing no emotion as victims testified, families of the 7 people Klaus had murdered, constitutional scholars explaining how Project Nightingale violated every protection in the Bill of Rights. When the verdict came, guilty on all 23 counts, Vanessa didn't flinch, but as marshals led her away, she looked back at Ryan. "There are always more operations, more projects. You can't stop them all." "Maybe not," Ryan replied. "But I stopped you. 25 years, no possibility of parole. Vanessa Cross, once untouchable, would spend the rest of her life in federal prison. General Miles' military tribunal was briefer. His decorated career meant nothing weighed against treason, stripped of rank, medals revoked, 30 years in military prison. The man who'd spent 40 years serving his country would die behind bars. He wept during sentencing, the first real emotion anyone had seen from him. "I was protecting America," he sobbed. "You were profiting from surveillance," the judge corrected. "There's a difference." Senator Kane's trial revealed the depth of political corruption. Emails showed him taking bribes, manipulating votes, using classified information for insider trading. His arrogance never wavered until the jury foreman read "guilty" 35 times, 35 years. Kane was 67. The math was simple and brutal. "I was a patriot," he screamed as they dragged him away. "I kept this country safe." Nobody believed him. Jonathan Graves tried every legal maneuver, claimed he was just a businessman, didn't know what the technology would be used for, but his own emails betrayed him. Discussions of bribes, mentions of eliminating problematic engineers, spreadsheets showing illegal profits. 40 years, $2 billion in fines, Apex Solutions liquidated, money going to a victims fund. Graves aged 10 years during the trial. The confident CEO became a broken man who couldn't meet anyone's eyes. Richard Crowe never made it to trial. They found him in his garage, car running, suicide note brief. "I did what I thought was necessary. I was wrong." His funeral drew exactly 5 people. Even his family stayed away. Marcus Webb moved to Baltimore under witness protection. New names, new identities. Jessica found work as a teacher. The twins, now 5, adjusted with the resilience of children. Ryan visited their safe house one Saturday. Found Marcus building a deck, sons helping by dropping nails everywhere. "How are you doing?" Ryan asked. Marcus hammered another board into place. "Some days are hard. Jessica still wakes up checking locks. The boys don't understand why they can't talk to their grandparents." He looked up. "But I can sleep at night now. First time in months." "Any regrets?" "About testifying? No." Marcus's voice was firm. "I chose my family over my career, but more importantly, I chose right over easy." His son Michael ran over, hugging his leg. "Daddy, look what I found." A beetle crawling across his palm, Marcus smiled, showing his son the insect's legs, explaining how it walked. This simple moment was what he'd protected by telling the truth. Ryan left feeling lighter. Sacrifices had meaning when they led to this. Angela Santos received a commendation from the mayor for her bravery during the attack on Bright Future Home. The publicity led to funding increases, new security systems, more staff, building renovations. At the ceremony, she deflected credit to Tommy Martinez. "That boy saved Lily's life. He's the real hero." Tommy, uncomfortable with attention, stood in his new suit, bought by Ethan, who'd also established a trust fund for Tommy's education. Full ride to any college, money for books, housing, whatever he needed. "You protected my daughter," Ethan had said simply. "I don't forget that." Tommy didn't know what to say. Adults usually disappointed him. Ethan kept surprising him by not disappearing. When Tommy aged out of foster care at 18, he'd have somewhere to go. Ethan had already discussed it with him. A standing offer. Their home was his home. Always, Julia Harper and Dave Chen's relationship developed with unexpected tenderness. He'd take her to diners at 3 a.m. after coding sessions. She'd fall asleep on his couch, surrounded by laptops, and wake up covered with his jacket. The proposal came 3 months into their investigation recovery. Nothing fancy, just Dave in his cluttered office, Julia surrounded by coffee cups, mid-debugging session. "Marry me," he said suddenly. Julia looked up from her screen. "What? I'm 50, you're 37, we've been through literal conspiracy investigations together. I love you, marry me." She stared at him for 10 seconds. "That's okay. I mean, yes, obviously yes," she grinned, "but I'm keeping my name. I'd be insulted if you didn't." They planned a small ceremony for fall. Lily would be flower girl. She was already practicing. Sarah Mills's academic paper on childhood trauma and resilience, based on Lily's case, with permission, revolutionized child welfare protocols. Universities invited her to speak. Policymakers cited her research. Foster care systems nationwide implemented her recommendations. Columbia offered her an endowed chair. She accepted, but maintained private practice. Some patients needed her too much to abandon. Lily still saw her weekly. Those sessions now resembled friendly check-ins, more than intensive therapy. They'd draw together, talk about school, process lingering anxiety. "I still have nightmares sometimes," Lily admitted during one session. "About the attack at the group home." "That's normal," Sarah assured her. "Trauma doesn't disappear. It just becomes smaller, more manageable." "Does it ever go away completely?" "No, but it stops controlling you." Sarah smiled gently. "You're one of the strongest people I know, Lily, and you're only 8. The adoption hearing itself was brief but profound. Judge Delgado's private chambers, family only. "This is unusual," Delgado said. "Conducting adoption hearings myself, but this case has been unusual from the start." Lily sat between Ethan and Evelyn, nervous energy radiating from her small frame. "Lily Grace Bennett, do you understand what adoption means?" "It means Ethan becomes my forever dad. Legally and really. And you want this?" Lily looked at Ethan. The man who'd answered a wrong number call, who'd promised to stay, who'd fought through hell to keep that promise. "Yes, Your Honor." "More than anything, Ethan Cole, do you accept full parental responsibility?" "I do, with everything I am." Delgado signed papers. "Then by the power vested in me, I declare this adoption finalized. Lily Grace Cole, welcome to your family." The courtroom, small as it was, exploded with applause. Logan wiped his eyes. Evelyn sobbed happily. Sarah beamed. Even stoic Julia was crying. The official photo captured pure joy. Ethan and Lily, certificate between them. Matching smiles, no walls, no guards, just a father and daughter who'd found each other against impossible odds. The celebration that night filled Ethan's penthouse with life. Evelyn's southern feast, fried chicken, collard greens, mac and cheese, peach pie that made everyone groan with pleasure. Lily played chess with Tommy, who visited on weekends now. Logan and Marcus discussed football. Jessica helped Evelyn in the kitchen. Julia and Dave danced awkwardly to music playing from somewhere. Ryan arrived late, still in his suit from court. Sorry, last-minute plea bargain on one of the subsidiary cases. You're working too hard, Sarah told him. Someone has to clean up the mess. But he smiled, accepting a plate of food. Besides, this is worth it. He gestured around the room. At the family they'd all protected. The joy they'd fought for. The justice they'd served. Late in the evening, Ethan found himself on the terrace again, but this time not alone, not staring at the void, just watching the city with something like contentment. Logan joined him, beer in hand. Quite a journey. That's one word for it. Got any regrets? Ethan thought about everything. The fear, the pain, the moments he'd almost broken, then thought about Lily inside. Laughing at something, Evelyn said, "Not one." "Good." Logan clinked his beer against Ethan's glass. "Because that little girl saved you as much as you saved her." "I know." Inside, Lily called for him. Cake-cutting time, chocolate with raspberry filling, her current favorite. Though it changed monthly, Ethan headed back to his family, his daughter, his purpose, his life that finally meant something beyond profit margins and quarterly reports. Judge Delgado attended the celebration briefly, breaking her usual professional distance. She pulled Ethan aside. "I've presided over thousands of cases. This one restored my faith in humanity." "How so?" "Because you could have walked away. That first night in the hospital, you could have called child services and returned to your comfortable life, but you didn't." "I couldn't," Ethan said simply. "The moment I heard her voice, I couldn't. That's what makes you her father." Not the paperwork, the choice. Later, much later after guests had left and Lily was asleep in her room, Ethan sat in his study. On the wall, he'd started a photo timeline, Lily at the hospital. First pancake disaster, chess on the porch, park visits, school plays, adoption ceremony, a life, documented and cherished. His phone buzzed. Email from Michael's lawyer. One final document had been found in Michael's effects. An envelope addressed to Ethan marked, "After adoption is finalized." Ethan opened the attached scan with shaking hands. Inside was a single photograph, Michael Bennett holding baby Lily in the hospital. The day she was born. On the back, Michael's handwriting, "To whoever loves my daughter. This is the moment I became a father, the moment everything changed. I hope you experienced something similar. I hope she changed you the way she changed me. Thank you for keeping her safe. Thank you for loving her. Thank you for being the man I knew you would be. You were never a random choice. Ethan, you were the right choice. Welcome to fatherhood. It's terrifying and wonderful and worth everything. With gratitude and respect, Michael." Ethan sat in the darkness, tears sliding silently down his face. Not from sadness, from something deeper. Recognition, understanding, the weight of responsibility freely accepted. He went to Lily's room, stood in the doorway watching her sleep. She'd kicked off her covers. She always did. He pulled them back up, tucked Mr. Carrot closer to her side. "Your father was right," Ethan whispered. "You changed everything, and I wouldn't go back for anything." Lily stirred, opened sleepy eyes. "Daddy, just checking on you. Go back to sleep. Stay for a minute." He sat on the edge of her bed. She grabbed his hand with both of hers. "I'm glad you answered the phone," she murmured. "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." She fell back asleep, holding his hand. Ethan sat there long after, watching his daughter breathe, thinking about wrong numbers that turned out to be exactly right, about promises kept through impossible circumstances, about two lonely people finding family in each other, about how sometimes the call you almost don't answer changes everything. 6 months after the adoption, spring arrived in Connecticut with explosive color. The Bennett family house, now the Cole family house, sat on 2 acres in Fairfield. Surrounded by gardens that Lily had helped plan, Ethan had sold the Manhattan penthouse without hesitation. Too many memories, too much glass and steel. This place was different, lived in, warm, real. Creaky floorboards that announced footsteps, a kitchen that smelled like cinnamon and coffee, windows that opened to birdsong instead of traffic. Lily loved every inch of it. Morning routines developed naturally. Ethan worked from a home office upstairs. He'd maintained ownership stake in Cole Tech, but hired a CEO who actually wanted the job. Philip Morrison was making the company more money than Ethan ever had, which was fine. Profit mattered less than being present for breakfast. Lily attended Fairfield Elementary, 3rd grade, Mrs. Eleanor Whitmore's class. Eleanor was 58, had been teaching for 30 years, and immediately recognized Lily's unusual mind. "She's extraordinary, Mr. Cole," Eleanor said at their first parent-teacher conference. "Advanced in mathematics, reading 3 grades above level, and she has this gift for seeing patterns." "She inherited that," Ethan said, thinking of Michael Bennett's brilliance. "But more importantly," Eleanor continued, "she's kind, patient with struggling classmates, the first to include new students." She smiled warmly. "You're raising a good human, not just a smart one." Ethan felt something unfamiliar, parental pride. "We're trying." Lily made friends quickly. Zoe Chen, 8 years old, shy, bonding over shared love of books, the Turner siblings next door. Jackson and Emma, 9 and 7. Endless energy, recruiting Lily for backyard adventures. For the first time in her life, Lily had normalcy. Saturday mornings, Ethan taught coding classes at the public library. 8 kids, ages 8 to 10, learning Python basics. Lily assisted, explaining concepts to peers with impressive patience. "My dad's teaching me to make games," she told the class proudly. "Soon we're going to make one together." Ethan watched her explain variables to a confused boy, using Lego blocks as visual aids. Michael would have been so proud. Sundays belonged to pancakes, their sacred ritual. No longer disasters. Ethan had actually learned to cook. They'd developed variations. Blueberry, chocolate chip, banana, walnut. Lily rated each batch scientifically. 7 out of 10, she'd announced seriously. Lost points for uneven distribution of chocolate chips. Logan visited most Sundays. He'd semi-retired from security work, consulting occasionally but mostly enjoying peace. He and Tank, now 8 years old, moving slower but still loyal, would arrive around 9. "Morning, kiddo," Logan would greet Lily, who'd tackle-hug him. Tank had officially moved in 6 weeks ago. The old dog and the young girl were inseparable. He slept beside her bed, followed her through the house, waited patiently while she did homework. But age caught up with Tank one quiet April afternoon. Lily found him lying on his bed, breathing shallow, unable to stand. She knew immediately something was wrong. "Daddy?" Dr. Lisa Monroe, their veterinarian, examined Tank gently. Her expression told Ethan everything before she spoke. "His quality of life is declining rapidly. He's in pain. The kindest thing." Lily, mature beyond her 8 years. "Understood. I don't want him to hurt." They took Tank to his favorite park one last time. The old dog managed a short walk, sniffing familiar trees. Lily sat with him in the grass, stroking his ears. Whispering thanks for protecting her, Tank licked her hand. That same gentle gesture from their first meeting at the vet's office. Lily held Tank. While Dr. Monroe administered the injection, the dog looked at her with trusting eyes. Then slowly, peacefully, went still. Logan cried, not ashamed of tears, not hiding emotion. Lily hugged him while both of them grieved. They buried Tank under the oak tree in their backyard. Lily painted a stone marker. Tank, best friend and protector. They planted flowers around it, bright yellow ones that would bloom every summer. "He had a good life," Lily said that night, eyes red but voice steady. "Love and purpose. That's what matters, right?" Ethan pulled her close. "That's exactly what matters. Then I'm glad we gave him that." Her resilience amazed him. She'd faced so much loss, yet somehow learned to grieve without breaking, to love without fear of losing, to be strong without becoming hard. Marcus Webb's family visited in May. Annual tradition now, Jessica and the twins had adjusted to new lives. Michael and David, now 5, played with Lily like cousins. The adults gathered on the porch while children chased butterflies in the garden. Marcus looked healthier than Ethan had ever seen him. The weight of secrets lifted. "How's the new job?" Ethan asked. Marcus headed the FBI's anti-corruption task force now, cleaning house from inside. "Busy, rewarding, finally feels like I'm doing what I should have been doing all along." "Any regrets? About testifying?" "Never." Marcus watched his sons laugh. "I chose them. I chose right. Best decision I ever made." Julia Harper and Dave Chen's wedding happened in September. Small ceremony in Brooklyn, exactly their style.